exercise is intended to select leaders who will promote good governance, accountability, and development, and advise all those involved in the election to prioritize peace and justice, and also called on stakeholders off-cycle election to collaborate to create an environment conducive to credible elections. He reminded the stakeholders that the election is not war, but simply an exercise in democracy where voters choose leaders who will promote good governance, accountability, and development, and urged all stakeholders to adhere to the principles of democracy, respect the rights of others, and prioritize the interests of the Edo people and Nigeria in general, calling on all to join them as they work towards deepening democracy in Nigeria. He also called on voters in Saturday's governorship election to come out en masse and exercise their civic duty without hindrance, and also encourage the electorate, to vote for candidates based on their manifestos, track records, and leadership qualities, and also urged voters to reject any form of vote buying as it undermines the integrity of democracy, urging them to recognize that the will of the electorate is sacrosanct and must be respected. The decision to choose leaders, according to him, rests squarely on the shoulders of the people, saying that it is what makes democracy unique and should be a selfless service to the people, stressing that no responsible leader would want to force themselves upon the leader, and appealed to the independent National Electoral Commission and security agencies to remain neutral and impartial, pointing out that their roles are critical. What do you have to say to this story, Dr. Nelson?
Well, the park chairman or is a leader have said all the right things under ideal circumstances. All the right things, really. But we are very far from the ideal. Very far from the ideal. It was Claude Ake of blessed memory that said that in economies like ours, when all these other sectors have been killed, when there's too much premium placed on politics, on politics, that succeeding in elections is more like becomes more like war. In Nigeria today, that is our reality. All the other industries seem to have collapsed, either by design or by complete carelessness of the Nigerian political elite. So you find that increasingly governance and politics is now the industry in Nigeria. Everybody needs to be there. Professor Emekekwe said the state has been feudalized. The state is the means of production instead of the means of production sectors. The Eastern is a means of production. So that even if you manage to somehow acquire some leverage without politics, you still need to use politics to protect your power, to protect your wealth. Otherwise, one miscreant can just initiate one policy one day and run you over. So it's a terrible thing. But he has said all the right things. And my concern now is that the charged atmosphere in Edo State might also lead to a state where citizens just decide to stay back and not come out to vote out of a sense of safety, self-preservation. And that will not augur well for the election overall, because then whoever emerges may not be the actual candidate that ought to have emerged, and then you run into this cycle of having a leader that is actually not legitimized in the eyes of the people, and that has serious implications for governance going forward. So I would join my voice to his to say, look, politics shouldn't be war, and the interest of the people should be prioritized. But beyond just this appeal, the federal government, INEC and the security agencies have a responsibility to Nigerians, have a responsibility under the law to make sure that they provide a level playing field for everybody to participate. We still have to preserve this nation. And what people who are so aggressive about power forget is that if they run down the system, then everybody is the loser, and they will lose more, because that is their profession. Many of them do not have any other thing that they are doing. They don't have any other job. When you ask them what they are doing, their profession is politics, and it's such a disgrace. Because ordinarily, you should have something else that you're doing and you come into politics to serve. But now we have professional politicians in Nigeria. And they should not think that they have so cowed the military that anything is still possible. This is a third world democracy. Anything is, so they should be careful. This democracy is still fragile and needs to be preserved.
Right. On the heels of the statement by IPAC, you recall that Governor Godwin Obaseki came out to say that the election is a do-or-die affair. And he also said that any attempt to rig the election will result in death. Now, such strong words coming from the governor of a state, what do you make of it? What do you think would be in the minds of the electorates? Of course, you've spoken about voter apathy. And then on the minds of the other political parties as well. If the governor is coming out to say that any attempt to rig the election will be met with death. Now, the issue of rigging election is on one hand, but right now I'm dwelling more on the statement of the governor. By implication, is the governor saying that he has foot soldiers on ground, militants on ground, that will perpetrate violence if the PDP feels threatened?
Well, that language is very strong, especially coming from a governor in an election year. But whether he has foot soldiers or not, he will be the one that will answer that one. But those statements are very strong. And for a sitting governor, I look at it from two angles, really. Okay. It's either he's trying to bear his fangs as a governor, he wants to tell that he has the power, or he has actually been cowed to such an extent that he's shouting out of desperacy.
Interesting.
Yes. So
let's look at this.
What will make a governor maybe he has seen something that is bigger than him, and he begins to shout like that. So I really cannot tell what he has seen and what will make him talk in that manner. Okay, because the last time too, his party was saying that the APC National is putting too much pressure and is ready to rig election and all those kind of stuff. But the
PDP state.
He said?
PDP National as well is in Edo State, and Atiku Abubakar has also come out.
No, you're talking about going to campaign for the party.
Yes.
No, I'm talking about power of incumbency, federal might.
No, Obaseki has power of incumbency.
I mean, federal
might operating in
of course, dwarfs the state governor's power. That's why the state governor is not shouting like that.
No, okay, that could
you will not hear an APC governor in these dispensations talk the way Obaseki have talked.
Interesting. All right. Then, but when you look at the whole scenario playing out, PDP were unable to get their acts together on time when their house was in crisis. In fact, the three major parties in Edo State, APC, PDP, and Labour Party, all had inter-party crisis in the aftermath of their primaries. But APC, they were able to, close ranks and then reconcile the warring factions. And the Guba candidates, both parties that were fighting, the primary, the aspirants, were meant to reconcile. One became the Guba candidate and the other one was deputizing him. However, in the aspect of PDP, the issues continued, and Obaseki at the same time was not playing wasn't playing a very smart politics, because that was the wrongest time to even pick a fight with Shuaibu. To a large extent, there should have been a way to reconcile, but probably egos were playing out, and at the same time was having issues with the Oba of Benin, which also put him out of favor with a lot of people from the Benin Kingdom, particularly the people who hold the Oba in very high esteem. And then you look at the defection of the South chairman, Dan Obi, and then you now look at the strong men and women that decamped from PDP and joined the APC. Now, few days to the election, Obeide Ihama, that's a major political colossus in PDP Edo State, decamped with Alimiken, and a few hours after that, the governor came out to make the statement. So when you say the governor probably has been pushed, boxed to a corner, when you look at what has been happening in the party, it appears that the main people who would have swayed votes to PDP have decamped and pitched their tents with APC. Don't also forget some obedience in Labour Party. Also openly pledged support for the APC in Edo State. So, I mean, it's a lot going on in Edo State. But when you look at all these variables, apart from the, let's say, federal might playing out, do you think PDP had their house in order, knowing the kind of battle they were about to enter? Because, I mean, Obaseki is calling it war at this point.
Okay, let me start with obedience. Some obedience pitching their tent with APC. You know, for me, in the obedient movement, for me, I see two broad groups.
Yes.
One set that believes in P2B, and for them, they can pick whatever, take whatever choice at the local level. Their core interest is P2B.
Yeah.
And then they have a mix of the people who are actually the traditional politicians that are fair weather fellows. Anywhere they see the light, they move. If they say that it's working here, they move. And those ones, if there's a way to classify, they really do not belong to the Biden family. They are just looking for ways of patching wherever they think is happening. Then on the other side, you know, I've said it here before, that I have difficulty really separating the APC and the PDP.
Why?
Yes, because they are just like two sides of the same coin. They keep switching. If you follow a politician for a while, you'll be wondering. You need to, anytime you want to speak, you need to ask again. Where is this one now? Has he gone back to APC or is he still in PDP? And that brings again back to the fore what I said earlier about politicians in Nigeria being professional politicians, not being driven by ideology, not being driven by any belief system.
Our political parties have ideology.
That the ideology, when you look at the nitty-gritty, you see that there's no real difference. There's no real difference.
Well, politicians will always come out to tell you that.
I'm not talking about party manifesto, about projects on this. I'm talking about the core values of the party that really should separate one party from another in terms of the belief system. A party should be more like a religion. It's actually a kind of religion. So you believe what you believe, and if it does not favor you for a season, you still stick there. But in our case, no. So all that movement may not be because of whatever the governor have done right or not done right. It might just be an indication that the politicians have looked at the mirror and seen that the federal might is coming on heavy, and they don't want to belong to a camp that they perceive might lose, and they start switching.
So it's about interest.
Most of the time. And all that too, we put the governor under a lot more pressure. And
there is also, isn't there a possibility of these politicians also being wooed?
Being wooed? Very, very possible. In fact, I was about to I forgot that when you talked about the reconciliation in the APC and how big it was. It's easier to reconcile when there's a lot of dough on the table. Yeah, but when there is none, then you see the real people, the real...
But there have been cases of... a sitting governor or a governor that has finished his tenure and wanted to, put his own anointed, still overcoming power of incumbency. There has also been situations in Nigeria where sitting governor, that is the power of incumbency right now in elections, still fought against federal might and still won. And
succeeded.
Yes. And there have also been cases where even a politician or an aspirant actually was able to win election against a sitting governor. Yes.
All that can play out, but you need to dissect them case by case so that you don't make sweeping generalizations that will not hold water. You see, for a sitting governor to win against the federal might, in most instances, one, maybe the governor have actually taken a long-time view in his approach and done some things that were right and have the people of the masses really following. And if he has played his politics right, and I've had a number of the stakeholders in the state that he has pulled to his side, and they also have looked at the interest of the masses and say, if we move against this man, it might not work for us. That might also play out. And then the other part, if you watch those states that succeeded like that, look well, you see that there are states that have a certain level of leverage in terms of their resource base, either internally generated or allocation. Those other states that are not that strong and cannot pull their weights significantly might not stand. in spite of the personality of the governor. So those are some of the criteria. You might just look at some of these things, one case to another, and then you see what really played out.
All right, very quickly as we wrap up this story, looking at Edo political ecosystem and how tensed it is right now in Edo State, what are your projections for the upcoming election in September 21?
Projections. I like to really shy away from that.
Right.
In Nigerian political scene, projections, because I beat my chest to some certain degree before the 2023 general elections, but see where we are now. The projections did not work for those of us that we are really looking at the variables that should count. At the end of the day, it was like moju business. So projections for me, I will shy away from that.
There might be surprises.
But no, there really will be surprises. Okay. But my appeal is that this democracy is fragile. I've said that before here. And that all stakeholders, if they call themselves stakeholders indeed, it means they have something to lose if the system goes bad. If there is a collapse, if there is a crisis, they have something to lose. So because they are stakeholders, they should, in spite of their interests, they should find some room to think about the system. And they should be mindful of the kind of politics they play in those states.
All right. And on to Imo State. Imo State Governor Hope Uzodinma has assured that all Progressive Congress aspirants who contested in the party's primaries for the local government area polls but failed to scale through will be refunded the money spent on purchase of forms. The governor maintained that there is no going back on the date for the local government elections, insisting that September 21, 2024 remains sacrosanct. A statement issued by the Senior Special Assistant to the Governor on Electronic and Creative Media, Ambrose Nwogugu, disclosed that Uzodinma gave the assurance after attending Sunday Mass at the Government House Chapel in Owerri. The governor made it clear that the funds spent on purchasing forms from the party will be refunded, excluding expenses made without receipts, such as those spent on consultations. All the people that applied as aspirants to run for either councillorship or chairmanship in the local government election who are not successful, your monies will be refunded on Monday, he said. The ones we will not refund is the ones you gave without receipts for consultations, the governor stated. He urged the aspirants to remain steadfast and objective and consider the greater good of the party and the state above individual interests. Uzodinma also pleaded with leaders whose expectations may have been disappointed to bear with the party and make sacrifices for the sake of the party in particular and the state in general. Uzodinma reassured the public that the election will proceed as scheduled by the Imo State Electoral Commission on September 21, 2024. Interesting. I was reading and you were laughing, Dr. Nelson. What do you find?
I was just telling myself that if I was a candidate in that election,
if you had known,
I will make sure that I have the seats for all the consultations so that I can go to the governor to refund me too. I mean, our democracy is at this point anyway, we can welcome anything that gives us a bit of comic relief, but this is not a joke. This is really not a joke. I see a governor that have become both the governor, the INEC, ISEC chairman, and the party chairman all rolled into one. If you follow the processes in Imo State, when he travels, everything is suspended. He comes back, he issues statement. The politicians are hanging on every word of the governor. And that is too much. That is not a democracy. In fact, there had been the party chairman is practically sleeping. Uzodinma is the one conducting and organizing everything from the office of the governor. The ISEC governor is also sleeping. The governor is in charge and he's not hiding it. What is that story about telling politicians if they don't believe they have what it takes? This is not a joke. They are not gambling. If they don't believe they have what it takes to run elections and win, they should stay at home. They should support others. Why do you want to guarantee that you will pay back their money? And by the way, where is that money going to come back from? Is it going to come from the coffers of the party? Or is he coming from the government house? Since he's speaking with such audacity, is he speaking as a party chairman that have consulted the stakeholders? And why are you refunding them their money? If they think they are, let them take the risk and contest the election. Otherwise, they should support those who are contesting. So, I mean, I don't understand that. And of course, those who have receipts for consultations, if they show that they may also be refunded.
Receipt for consultation?
Yes, they may, because that is his problem. His problem is that they wouldn't have evidence of what was actually spent. So let them go ahead and gather receipts and give to him.
Well, probably giving them a
And then who is going to give a refund to all the other parties too that is not APC?
That is not his interest.
But he's the governor of the state.
He's speaking for his party.
You know, as the governor, he has a dual role. He's a party man, yes, but he's also the governor of the state.
This does not apply in this case because he is the governor of the state, but he belongs to APC. So his statement is to APC. This is politics. This is election. He cannot be buying forms or refunding forms.
He's not even
for other political parties.
Indirectly, yes. This is like buying forms for the candidate.
But that's what it is.
But he's not supposed to buy forms for the candidate. The laws of engagement does not allow him to do that.
Well, the ISEC right now is not condemning that action. They are.
But ISEC and Hope Uzodinma are one and the same.
Why would you say that?
Why, if he can be making this kind of statements, changing the dates of local elections at will?
When you say ISEC, well, the ISEC is under the governor. Are they not? They are state independent electoral commission.
Did you forget the word independent?
The state executive funds them.
That does not make them a property of the governor.
Appoints them.
But they are supposed to be independent because it's not the state executive that funds them. It's the state government that funds them. Well, and the state government should be separated in a partisan time like this.
Well,
but again, ideally, the reality is that Hope Uzodinma is completely
I am
in charge.
looking at what is going on politically.
It's completely in charge.
If the state executive can as well do a budget and, if I may use the word Nicodemusly, have amnesia with respect to the budget of the ISEC in this instance. ISEC will come out to tell you they have not been funded to run elections, and then elections will not happen because they have not been funded by the state government, like you said. And which arm of the government is responsible for that? Is the executive.
No, but you know what? In an ideal democracy, it's not even the executive that does the funding.
Are we in an ideal democracy?
No. In any democracy, it should not be the executive. The arm of the government responsible for allocating resources is the legislature.
Well,
the executive is just a clearinghouse.
The executive will prepare the budget.
It's just a clearinghouse.
The executive prepares the budget. The legislature passes it into law.
Yeah, but it is the legislature that have the responsibility for allocating resources. Even to the
budget.
Even to the executive.
Is it applicable?
Huh? In our own brand of democracy, unfortunately.
So in your opinion, ISEC is only doing the bidding of the
obviously for him to be so loud with this kind of statements. No, these are things you communicate to your party, for party faithfuls indoors. These are things if you must, you communicate to your party faithfuls or aspirants indoors. They are not things that a governor should come and throw in the air at this stage of the election. Probably
the governors in Nigeria have the audacity to say some things because they have immunity.
Audacity is the word.
Yes, it's the audacity, and then they have immunity. They are
not the only executive in the world that have immunity, but I don't know what they think democracy is. And some of the things they are doing will come back to haunt our democracy one way or the other.
Interesting.
Yeah.
People's Democratic Party in Lagos State has expressed optimism about its chances of winning future elections, particularly the 2025 local government elections. Chairman of PDP Local Government Area Secretary in Lagos State, Mr. Daniel Alao, stated this at a special meeting attended by party leaders, including Zamani Muhammad, Olubankole Wellington, and others. Alao emphasized the need for party unity, saying This is the time for us to come together to win Lagos for the good of both indigenes and residents living and doing their legitimate businesses in the state. He acknowledged past mistakes but expressed confidence in the party's ability to learn from them and win future elections. Alao appealed to all party stakeholders to put aside their differences and work towards the party's progress, stating, "The masses are waiting for the PDP, and there is no way we can make progress in a situation of pandemonium and division within the party." Regarding factions within the party, Alao acknowledged internal disagreements, but emphasized the importance of unity, saying, "The best way to win a war is togetherness." He expressed confidence in the party's chances in the 2025 local government elections, saying, "You will be shocked with the results that will come up in 2025 if we don't claim a majority in all the local government area chairmanship. Our voice will puncture the existing system." Dr. Nelson, what do you have to say to this?
Good party prep talk. He has a responsibility to mobilize his party for the elections. And he's starting well on time. This is 2024. And he's preparing the party ahead of 2025 elections. And the truth is that even when federal governments and state governments demonstrate a certain level of incumbency powers and might in statewide elections and in federal elections, one place where we should see more nuanced elections, if there is actually an election indeed, is at the local level. Because the people at the local level are closer to the candidates and their personalities and their antecedents. And if there is a proper election, then they're actually in a position to make their voices heard, because they know the people very well. And you're choosing people locality to locality, local government and chairman and all that. But then, unfortunately, again, we have been seeing carry-go outcome in local government elections across the country. So we don't know how that can change in Lagos State of all places in 2025.
Considering what played out in Lagos, especially in the 2023 presidential elections. You recall certain persons coming out to actually threaten electorates to go back home. Even there were town criers making announcements and, telling people not to go out to vote. And then for the people who were brazen enough, who were bold enough to go exercise their franchise, you saw what happened.
Some
received the beatings of their life. Some were told, if you don't vote for this particular party or this candidate, go home. And these things happened. And up until date, guess what? There are no consequences. These people were captured on camera. Till date, I have not heard anywhere that there are prosecutions, there were consequences, there were arrests that were made to the people that perpetrated electoral malpractices and violence in Lagos State. How do you think this is going to play out? Do you see the residents and indigenes of Lagos not forgetting as well that non-indigenes were also threatened not to vote? And you recall the aftermath of what happened, in Lagos State when Labour Party won, when Labour Party took majority of the votes in Lagos. What do you have to say to that with respect to the upcoming local government polls?
I think it was Edmund Burke that said that the only thing necessary for the continuation of evil is that good men do nothing. And I think that might be playing out more. In a federal election, in a presidential election, those indigenes might have more power compared to those whom they call non-indigenes, or those who are living in their midst that are not from those places. And so you can see that play out in any tug of war or contest. But for local elections, where, of course, the interest of the indigenes cannot be in one party. That might not work because you have a balance of forces, both on the part of the indigenes and non-indigenes participating or supporting different parties in those places. And that's why I feel that might be the game changer. Again, if you look back at what happened in the 2023 general elections, in spite of all the threats and all the attack, if the actual the outcome was still different, P2B, for instance, still won officially in the Lagos presidential election. But you will also notice that after the election, there have been reports of some things being done to, as it were, prepare the system to make sure that such outcomes will not repeat itself again.
That's why I'm asking, how is it going to play out? How is it going to affect the 2025 local government elections?
No, if you say the next general elections, then we might wait to see. But for the local elections, I think it might not have any real impact because of what I've just explained. The balance of interest across the parties on the ground of those local forces. Because it might be easier for them to say the president or the presidential candidate is an outsider. But when the candidates are all locals, when the candidates in the local are all locals,
it's going to change
then
the dynamic.
that changes the whole dynamics.
Interesting.
That changes it.
Interesting. Lagos State is going to be interesting then,
yes.
from all indications. All Progressive Congress in Kano State has announced that it will closely monitor how the state government utilizes the 3 billion naira released by the federal government to address flood disasters in the state. Alhaji Abdullahi Abbas, chairman of the party, told newsmen in Kano on Sunday that the party will ensure transparency in the use of the funds. Citing concerns over the alleged diversion of 130 trucks of food allocated to the state for selfish interests. Abbas said the new Nigeria People's Party government in Kano is frustrating the federal government's efforts to reducing hunger in the state. He alleged that President Bola Tinubu has approved several palliative measures for poor houses and vulnerable individuals, but those assigned to distribute them were diverting their resources.
As always said, there are two types of people, the oppressors and the oppressed, and in between are the coward and the hypocrites. Which are you?
No matter how tough the challenge, how high the obstacles, we always overcome.
What Nigerians believe now is not about the government. Who can come and salvage us from where we are?
From the lines across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring all the sport news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, socio-economic, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on the fact today, only on ATN.
Welcome back. Apologies for the break in transmission. All Progressive Congress in Kano State has announced that it will closely monitor how the state government utilizes the 3 billion naira released by the federal government to address flood disasters in the state. Alhaji Abdullahi Abbas, chairman of the party, told newsmen in Kano on Sunday that the party will ensure transparency in the use of the funds. Citing concerns over the alleged diversion of 130 trucks of food allocated to the state for selfish interest, Abbas said the new Nigeria People's Party government in Kano is frustrating the federal government's effort to reducing hunger in the land. He alleged that President Bola Tinubu has approved several palliative measures for poor households and vulnerable individuals, but those assigned to distribute them were diverting the resources. Abbas cited alleged instances of senior NNPP government officials being involved in diversion of palliatives. He alleged that the managing director of the State Agricultural Supply Company, Dr. Toko Dayabu Minjibe, was found selling grains belonging to the state government. Abbas emphasized that the party will not allow a repeat of such incidents and would ensure that the funds are used for their intended purposes. He noted that the federal government had constituted a committee led by Deputy Senate President Barau Jibril to oversee the equal distribution of palliatives in the state. Dr. Nelson, what is your take on this?
I think that there are a couple of things that have been mixed up there. We should be careful to treat criminality for what it is. Okay. If the Casco director was found to be diverting, selling grains meant for palliatives, that should be treated squarely as a criminal affair. I don't think that should be used to gauge, do not become a party policy or the policy of the party in the state. Except, of course, if the party did absolutely nothing to show their displeasure over such act, then it will rub off negatively on them. And then again, I find it difficult to conceive a situation where a party in power that should do everything to help the people that it is governing in the state, working against the interest of the state in issues as sensitive as fighting hunger and victims and helping victims of flood disaster. So that didn't connect well with me, except that again, in Nigerian political terrain, virtually anything goes. Otherwise, that should not sit in well. Then, when federal governments give grants to state governments in a federal system of government, naturally, the federal government has a responsibility to oversee and ensure that those grants are used for what they were provided for. It goes without saying. But again, I can see the political undertone in this particular case. It is the APC in Kano State that is making the announcement how they are going to monitor. Not the federal government saying, oh, we have given this money and we'll... Because administratively, they should ensure that it is used for what it was provided for. It should not even be a party for an issue for partisan politics.
But they said that normal. The federal government has constituted a committee headed by the Deputy Senate President to oversee the equal distribution. So probably the committee will also be saddled.
That is another thing. If the federal government wants to go to Kano State and distribute these things by themselves, then they should go ahead and do it. Why? If the,
you recall that Kwakwanso came out to accuse the federal government of boycotting the state governor, to share palliatives to the people in the state. And then APC, in response to Kwakwanso's allegation, came out to ask Kwakwanso, to tell Kwakwanso to go and ask both Kwakwanso and the governor to, they told Kwakwanso to go and inquire from the governor what happened to the palliatives that the federal government had sent to them prior to that accusation.
To that time?
Yes. So apparently, this allegation actually is not the first, because Kwakwanso has accused the federal government of boycotting the state government in giving out palliatives to the people of the state. The question would be, why would the federal government do that? And then APC is coming with a clapback, and they told Kwakwanso to go and ask Governor Yusuf of Kano State what happened with the palliatives that the federal government sent to them earlier. So probably they are building their statements or their recent resolve to follow up on the use of
those resources.
Money. Yes. Probably coming from the background of the alleged diversion of the initial palliative sent to the state government.
This might appear to be politicized, well, but for me, going by the rules in federal engagement, federal systems, the federal government have a responsibility to ensure that grants that they give to states are used for what it is said.
Well, is that happening?
But I hope that this will not be a one-off case. I hope that they will also do the same for all the other states too, whether they are APC states or they are non-APC states.
When we look at the job of opposition and politics, one could say that APC in Kano State right now is actually doing the job of opposition in politics.
Yes.
Because they are actually making the government accountable. They are putting them on their toes, and to ensure that whatever funds that are being given is actually judiciously used. For the... Because when you look at it, I mean, when the president, when he was addressing the nation during the End Bad Governance in Nigeria protest, when he came out to say that over 500 billion has been released to state governors to ensure to cushion the effects of the hardship, Nigerians were taken aback. Like, really? Over that amount of money, and Nigerians are unaware of that? That's on one hand. Now, a lot of Nigerians, particularly the people in the South, the oil-producing states, are unaware of the amount of monies that enter the coffers of the state governments from 13% derivation funds. We are not even talking of increased FAC allocation. 13% derivation funds. So the question would be, if the opposition in different states are putting the state governors on their toes, making inquiries about funds being released to the states, educating residents and citizens of the states, indigenous of the state, that this is the funds meant for so and so. What has the governor done with these funds? The governor make it transparent. Let your commissioner speak. Put the governor or the government of different states on their toes. Probably we will see better governance. Don't you think so?
That is true. That is true. And if you recall, that's part of my concern over the issues and the crisis in the Labour Party, because I keep insisting that there is no real difference between the APC and the PDP. Okay. What the emergence of the Labour Party is, for me, is not really like the third force. It is the opposition.
Labour Party.
Yes, Labour Party it will be more like the opposition, because the APC and the PDP are more like
birds of the same.
Yes. And so you find that there is too much accommodation in their politics in the country and across the state. Too much accommodation. It's not just because of the Wike phenomenon. No. There's just been too much accommodation between those two parties over the years. Okay. And we really need a party with somewhat distinct that can stand as an opposition party.
That people can actually look up
to play the actual role of the opposition.
All right. As Muslims observe Eid al-Maulud, the People's Democratic Party has urged the All Progressive Congress-led federal government to reassess all policies that negatively affect the people and focus more on citizens' welfare. This is coming after the federal government had announced Monday as public holiday to allow Muslims to celebrate Eid al-Maulud. In a statement on Sunday, PDP's National Publicity Secretary, Debo Ologunagba, urged the federal government to address wasteful spending, tackle corruption, and focus resources on projects that directly benefit Nigerians, and also urged Nigerians to use the occasion to reinforce their hope in the Almighty Allah for direction as well as care for one another, especially at this critical time when millions of citizens have been subjected to misery, hopelessness, and utter destitution as a result of bad governance by the APC. The opposition party encouraged Nigerians to stay calm and hopeful and to use Eid al-Maulud as a time to show love to one another while earnestly praying for divine guidance in the nation's affairs, adding that most Nigerians cannot afford to celebrate and enjoy with their loved ones on an occasion as significant as the Eid al-Maulud. The PDP council's leaders, whose decisions and policies inflict hardship and pain on citizens, to use this occasion for deep introspection. The PDP charges the federal government to end profligacies, curb corruption, and remain sensitive in prioritizing the needs of the citizens by channeling resources to projects and programs that have a direct bearing on the welfare of Nigerians. Dr. Nelson.
Well, I like to think differently at times, and while I'm listening to you, and I'm just asking myself, how far and how well did the world's biggest party in Africa use their own opportunity when they had it?
Somehow I knew I knew you were going to say that.
It is very comfortable to criticize others. How far and how well? Part of the problem we have now was a build-up from all the years of wastes under the PDP government. Yes, really, you can say they did better because when you look at specific sectors and look at specific programs. But overall, if they took this country to the place this country was supposed to be, the APC may not have had the opportunity to reverse things so badly as it is now. So while they make this kind of very plausible and beautiful statements, they should also remember that as a party, these statements will also be used against them tomorrow if they have the opportunity in power. And again, for the states where they are leading now, are we seeing any real difference?
Dr. Nelson, you just answered my question when I've not asked it, because I was going there.
Yes.
I wanted to cite Abia State as an example before Alex Oti of the Labour Party.
Yes, that one is a different.
The abysmal condition.
Yes.
The PDP government for over 16 years left Abia State.
Left the state. So why they are talking and making this noise about the federal government? What is the difference in the governance in the states where they are leading compared to the APC states? If they are showing something very strong in those states and holding their governors to account and using the politics of governance, actual governance in favor of the people to show that there is a difference between the AP, then we can, that is why I have been complaining. Then we can say, okay, this is beautiful, and that they hold a promise to a better future. But that we are not really seeing. Abia State governor is the star of the season. He's the star of the season, Labour Party governor. And so people might be inclined to say, oh, let's see if this magic can be replicated in the next round under further Labour Party governors.
And make Labour Party more popular in even other states that have underperforming governors from other parties.
Can we say that about the PDP in PDP-controlled states? No, not really. They are more of the same. That's the problem.
So probably Labour Party has to put their strategy in order.
So maybe APC in PDP control states can just release the same kind of statement.
Because in your opinion, they are birds of the same feather. So while attacking the other one, you're attacking yourself indirectly. Interesting. Presidential candidate of the Labour Party in the 2023 elections, Mr. Peter Obi, has flayed the presidency over what he described as a futile attempt to cast him in a bad light using the American presidential election. Obi, who spoke through his media office in a statement titled "Why Desperate Obi Traducers Are Kissing the Dust," signed by his spokesman Ibrahim Omar in Abuja on Sunday, said desperate propagandists, along with their presidential enablers, were indulging in the distortion of facts, all in a bid to destroy his impeccable image. The statement partly reads, "For these traducers, it would be a huge omission for a day to pass without finding something to negatively link Obi within the media space. If he and his family members are not being arrested imaginarily, he is being wickedly accused of sponsoring violence or twisting his public appearances in a manner to suit their dubious motives. Perhaps the most laughable of such delusions is the presidency's effort to ridicule Obi by dragging his name into the United States of America electioneering process by scandalously linking him with the Republican Party candidate, Donald Trump. We are very much aware of the motive behind these ridiculous comparisons, which is their uncanny way of currying favor so undeserved from the Democrats. Nigerians who mused about the derisory and facetious comparison have asked, will your calling Peter Obi a Trump translate to or mean that Tinubu is Harris? Obi remains a man who has not only become the conscience of the people, but also their hope for a new and egalitarian democracy. Rather than strive to market and justify their rusty and anti-people deleterious policies that have put Nigeria and Nigerians in the most horrendous conditions, they have resolved to convey misleading accounts of our principal's activities just to distract the credulous public. Finally, Peter Obi Media Reach wishes to plead with Nigerians, especially the obedience within and outside the country and across all their political parties, to remain undistracted in their aspiration and desire to see a new Nigeria that is possible. Well, that was a comeback, a very strong comeback from Peter Obi Media team. What do you have to say to this, Dr. Nelson?
I think that to a large extent I agree with most of what they have said, but I still have an issue with part of their position.
All right.
I agree with most of what they have said. It's really difficult and I think really laughable to associate the personality and the person of Obi with the personality and the politics of Trump.
All right.
And I was even thinking that Trump is more of our president's friend. Because I remember that after the incident of the shooting, the assassination attempt on his life, one of the presidents that he said called him was our own president. Yes,
Changes nothing. It's politics.
No, I understand.
That doesn't make them
he
friends.
appreciated that. He saw him as a friend, somebody who looked out for him, and was even making his normal, usual bogus statement that he's going to have a waiver for Nigerians coming to America after where he wins.
Even Harris.
But
also Kamala Harris also
called. Yes, of course.
So that's politics.
I know. But I was just speaking about our own side.
Yeah.
But besides the jokes, really, in the politics of Trump, I don't think he has any real closeness to the person of Peter Obi.
Okay.
But where I feel that both parties are playing the wrong kind of politics is that even though the momentum, as we speak now, favors Harris, but the elections, the polls and the anticipated result is still too close to call. No part between Trump and Harris in the election, in the presidential election, they can beat their chest and say it's a home run. We have done it. So, for you, a sitting president or the media aides to the president, to begin to speak in a manner that tend to cast Trump as a loser.
Yes.
Is a
problematic fellow.
It's a wrong politics. What if Trump emerges the president? What will that portend for relations between the government of Trump and the government of Tinubu, and the implication for national interest and all that? That is too hasty, and that is unprofessional. Then even on the Obi side, in responding to the other people, they have also made the same mistake.
Yes, making it look like Trump was not.
Trump is practically a loser.
It's not a worthy comparison.
Yes. So it needed the language needed to be having more professional. Yes, you can refuse that comparison, but you do it in a manner that does not disparage a very strong candidate in the U.S. presidential election.
A former U.S. president.
Former is even, but a very strong candidate as we speak, because nobody can tell completely what the outcome might be. You might find yourself being in power, who knows, when he's also in power. And those things can really have very strong impact on the nature of relations, between countries. But besides that, the idea of just using everything for the sake of trying to smear a candidate's personality is just too much.
Now,
just unnecessary.
When you look at the stance of some of the Bayo Onanuga, for example, Bayo Onanuga has said a lot, as a presidential media person. And then now the presidency also coming out to, at every given time, they always have something to say about Peter Obi. Isn't that giving cause for concern?
Yes, it's a cause for concern to them. Because
to the presidency or
to the presidency,
okay.
In fact, for me, it's even a plus for Peter Obi. Because in politics, any kind of publicity is good publicity.
So they say
the only time you lose is when the person you're speaking is when the person being spoken of is dead or does not have capacity to respond. But they're actually putting him in the air, putting him everywhere, and it shows the fact that the man is a rising star every day. And they are troubled with his personality, with his reach, with his capacity.
Could Peter Obi be a threat right now to the federal government?
If he's not a threat, if he's not
the second tenure ambition,
if he's not a threat, why are they paying so much attention to him? And of course, the more they are not doing what they are supposed to do, the more they should see P2B as a threat. If they are doing what they are supposed to do, then they will not be seeing him as a threat. It's simple logic.
Interesting perspective. Interesting perspective. But then, would you say that to a large extent, P2B has done credibly well for himself in the aftermath? Because, there are also... Yes, he has been quite outspoken in critiquing some of the government policies. However, in the structure of the Labour Party, even though that, yes, right now they've made a very bold move to have the structure, the party structure organized, but we are still looking at, 2027 is not far. From next year, the electioneering year will start. In fact, right now it has started because people are beginning to make statements with regards to 2027. One would wonder, one of the major challenges that Labour Party had during the 2023 presidential elections was the fact that they didn't have agents in most of the polling units, particularly in remote places. One would wonder, how well is Labour Party doing? What are they doing to tackle that particular problem? What are they doing to spread their tentacles so that in the forthcoming 2027 presidential elections, they can say, okay, besides being popular right now as a third party, we are a force in the real sense of the word. Because it's one thing to be popular and another thing to have the structure to deliver you in the forthcoming elections.
Okay, I think the where I would like to start is the first question you asked, if P2B is doing the right thing after the 2023 general elections. I think he is. In recent Nigerian political history, it is I don't think there's any leading aspirant that have put up the kind of presence that he has right after a general election. When many people expected him to be sucking and counting his woes over the last election, he just went about his business, not necessarily campaigning directly, but of course, in marketing, there's something they call brand stretching.
And that's what he's doing right now.
That's what he's doing right now, and doing it beautifully, remaining in the public eye, using every opportunity to still canvass the same issues he was canvassing, and not sparing the government when he has to criticize their policies and all that. So he has remained consistent in championing those issues that he would have fought for as a candidate or as a president. And I don't see anybody in recent Nigerian political history at that level that have remained afloat like that. For Atiku Abubakar, we know that, yes, he has contested back-to-back for some time. But what he has done is after the election, he just takes a break.
But this time around, I think he's not taking a break.
And again,
have you noticed that?
I see that as part of the influence of the P2B phenomenon.
Because he knows if he takes a basket, then he will just fizzle away.
He will fizzle away.
So he's trying to,
in your opinion, he's trying to everybody on the seat.
He's trying to, he's on his toes because of P2B.
Toes, yes.
Interesting. Now, when you also look at Nigerian politics, actually, sometimes the popularity of the candidate, after all the popularity of the candidates in the eyes of the masses, the party has a major role to play.
Yes.
And in Nigeria right now, we are still not practicing independent candidacy.
Yes, the party has a major role to play. But because of our own uniqueness, unique environment, I think that what the issue should be now, as leading up to the next general election, should be on electronic transmission of results being finally, clearly enshrined. Not for any court to come out tomorrow and tell us that INEC has an option.
What makes you think that the government? What makes you think that the government will shoot themselves in the foot by doing that?
Yes, the government is the government, but the government cannot be bigger than the people. They cannot be bigger than the country.
Are the people pushing for that now?
Of course, there are places and issues are being raised, but again, a lot will fall back on civil society groups and the political parties to champion this thing to a level where it becomes incontrovertible, right? And once that is done, we'll see that in the last general election, Obi was one not known as much as is known now nationally, right? And he went into Labour Party very close to the election. So it was the movement that propelled him, so to say. And even the movement was at his very infant stages at that time, compared to how it has matured over the time. So the same movement that stood for him and produced the phenomenon of the obedient movement might still stand in the gap over where the party is not able to fit in very well. But it will be much more interesting, easier and better if the party is able to rise up to the occasion. So
you're feeling that with the move of Labour Party currently, with the caretaker committee who have been given a window of 90 days to, put the party structure in place and even try arbitration and reconciliation. Probably this move is a move in the right direction. Not forgetting that P2B recently named a chairman for the obedient movement. So that is also getting that particular movement structured, building up to 20.
Building up on its own. So the Labour Party is well aware that, yes, if you don't manage yourself well, you might lose this bride. They should be aware of that.
They should be aware of that. And then, to a large extent, after all is said and done, it still boils down to the intrigues and power plays between political parties. Like you saw what played out in 2023 presidential election.
Yes.
It was a function of Oyemilokun. So now, how do you see all that playing out in 2027? You think from the moves Obi is making, he's coming prepared, he's preparing himself?
Yes, I want to believe he's preparing himself. And again, I also believe that given the experience of Nigerians, after the Oyemilokun ended up with the 2029 May inauguration last year, that the Oyemilokun phenomenon might not play so well again.
Why do you say that? Because of the state of the nation right now,
the experience,
putting the APC out of favor with the masses.
Yes, not just the APC. I want to believe that the experience, what Nigerians have passed through in the last 1 year, have prepared them better, and we make them a lot more hesitant to accept that idea that anybody will wake up tomorrow and say it's their turn.
This is Nigeria.
Yes, it's Nigeria.
Nigerians have an incredibly elastic limit that seems not to come to an end.
That might not be very correct.
Dr. Nelson, you would agree with me that the government so far has been progressively worse. When it was Goodluck Jonathan, Nigerians were praying for Buhari. Now it was the turn of Buhari. Everybody was like, Buhari needs to go, we need someone else. What makes you, and the same Nigerians seemed not to learn, and they kept making the same mistakes, and they kept using, it is what it is.
Look at it. There's an area where that your analysis, I feel that I should interject a bit.
All right.
When it was the turn of Goodluck Jonathan, and Nigerians felt dissatisfied, they were praying for a change. The options open to them brought in Buhari. Buhari was looked at as that face of change at that time, and unfortunately he disappointed Nigerians to a large extent. And then this one too. So now it is now, I mean, for the parties to begin to think about presenting the right candidates. And that's why I've been hammering on Labour Party as a possible option. Perhaps another party can also rise with some other credible
candidate. Because of the
candidates.
talks of merger has been floating the political
Yes, who knows whether another party might rise with another kind of candidate. But Nigerians, I believe, look, when I think about Nigerians and their dispositions, I like to think about myself as a Nigerian and my own thoughts and my feelings and my actions. I like to think about my students and the views of the people I have been interacting with. These are also Nigerians. And their dispositions, if this are anything to go by across the country, I don't think we are so rigid that we are incapable of change. No, we can also change our position. The hold of ethnicity, the hold of religion is breaking down gradually.
Are we there
not
yet?
as fast as we can see,
but we are
as
not
we
there
want,
yet.
but it is breaking down.
But we are not there yet.
In our national politics, it's losing its grip.
But we are not there yet.
Yes.
Do you think we are there yet?
When you put it like this, it's like there's one perfect place. Even in American politics, they are not there yet. Everybody is on a journey.
Well, everybody is on a journey, but apparently there are levels to self-realization, there are levels to orientation, there are levels to...
I believe that where we are now is far, far from where we were, even just before the general election last year. Far from that. All
right. So now you think that with everything that is playing out right now, Nigerians will make better decisions.
I believe so.
In 2027.
I believe so. Definitely I will. And I know a lot of people that will too. So I believe Nigerians will make a better decision.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Nelson, for coming on Open Conversation.
It
was a pleasure having you. Thank you so much. And I will do this again. And this is where we wrap it up on this episode of Open Conversation. We are open for advert placements, bookings, and commercials. You can connect with us on all our ATN socials, Facebook and YouTube, Atlantic Television Network, Instagram and TikTok, Atlantic TV Network 1, and on Twitter, Atlantic TV Net. Watch us live on our website, www.atlanticnetwork.tv. Do not forget, peace and unity are the pathways to progress. Thank you for watching. I am Ogu Laurentia. Transition News comes up next. Do not go away.
The president, my people are on the sea.
I will place economic stability and confidence.
To conduct this act, I propose to the lead of this minister and the president. I've always said there are two sides of people, the oppressors and the oppressed, and in between are the coward and the hypocrites, which I...
No matter how tough the challenge, how high the obstacles, we always overcome.